My name's Ben. We're here at the 5th annual HVAC, our training symposium, and I want to talk about Better HVAC because this fellow right here has been conspiring with me for probably about a year now on trying to be what is it that the industry needs, and we were developing a lot of ideas that might get kind of incorporated into Better HVAC. But I think, Chris, you have a couple of ideas of what Better HVAC could be, what the industry really needs, and you've been brainstorming that with other people, but I haven't heard it yet. I want to hear it.
Something I've been thinking about, we've talked about this, and this is me just being full frontal legit, it's like we do need a mission, right? And the mission may change down the road, but it's like I like the movement, but the movement needs that main purpose, and we got to figure out what those are soon so we can spearhead and get some traction. So we don't want to flash and it's going away. So here's something that I haven't dealt with most of my life. I felt it as a contractor, but didn't know it was such an issue on the back end. What I mean by the back end, I mean the contract, the manufacturers, the distributors, the training organizations. They're all collectively part of this, what I'm about to talk about. Mm-hmm. So NCI is here, and I've done some trainings with them at different distributors. And here's what I would say, those situations where they try really hard. I mean, I have learned for them to set up a class is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So when they're trying to set up a class and then they get to a distributor, and the distributor has, let's say, has 30 people coming to class, but there's only 18 chairs. The projector's not really working, you know what I'm saying? And then you may have people sitting in the hallway. That actually happened to me and NCI on a previous class we did. We literally had 2 people that had to sit in a hallway during a class and look through the door. I felt terrible. Yep. I'm and I don't want to say we even compensated him for coming on that class because it was man, this isn't right.
And that happens often, or?
Well, it's I would say it happens more often than we even know. And so who's fighting the fight for the people who are now trying to do the training, who are traveling and trying to get out there and do trainings? What's the established protocol of the room? I was talking to Alex Meany. He was telling me, he goes as far as saying you have to have parking, you have to have seats, you have to have this, not a specific projector, but you got to have a projector. He's got requirements. And I was man, that's really smart. You're setting yourself up for success when you go do trainings. This is being requested by organizations like that, but they're not always getting it. So
people
it's
aren't prepared.
Yeah, and so if you're trying to, if they're putting in the work to get out there, which is a ton of work, and then they get there and the room's not set up for success, well then how do you think the training's going to go? You think the guys in the room are going to be, guys and girls in the room are going to be super excited for a training if they're squished in the back or it's really hot? I'm saying we need better facilitation of training. That I think could be something that companies could rally around and say, this should be the set standard at a minimum if you're going to host a training. Because I feel that hasn't quite been done yet.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of new to this, but that's what I've seen so far. Now some places are
the
amazing.
best observations sometimes come from people that are new to it.
Yeah. But then
fresh.
Once on the fresh perspective, and then it gets validation from people that are feeling that pain. Because you've been in this industry for a couple of decades now, and so is that valid?
To a lot of distributors, have you seen the rooms are hit or miss, right?
Yeah, very, very much so. And I mean that's a place where Better HVAC could help. Is Chris's checklist for a better presentation. Just a logistic. Chris's list.
I think Alex already has it for us.
Alex's list then.
But standard for all those inefficiencies, having resource guides and standard operating procedures. So it's just if you're performing this work, here's this for free and it's been crowdsourced.
Right.
Here 50 other people have actually added their contribution to this, to basically this manual on basically, if you want to do a training event, here's how to do it.
Here's a thought. Maybe if you're a distributor and you have a really good room and you want those trainers to come to you, maybe you should be part of the Better HVAC checklist that says, hey, my room's ready for you guys. Yeah. So if you're on that list and the room's ready, here's a source of where you should maybe go find. If you want to go do trainings, this is the places you should go to because they've done the work. to bring you in.
And if you're like a distributor and you're seeing this, like, and you're just like, oh, but I don't want to. If I help with this, then I'm helping my competition. It's like, well, but like, sure, you can take that individual approach, but all it takes is a couple of people that are contributing to this, and every single person that's contributing is now making your process better.
Right.
And so everybody gets an order of magnitude more benefit out of what you put in, as long as everybody's contributing.
I would also say something that, just a brainstorm for you. Let's say we're all talking now about inverter systems and part load conditions, and we want to see that data, right? We want that data. But that's a really hard ask, and there's proper channels of how you ask and go for it, and it takes forever.
Yeah.
Unless there's a big rally behind it, and it gets like to where you build an industry need so much. It's like, we want this, right? And maybe this could be something where we chase that and say, we really want this data. There's enough people asking.
And so, because as a member of ASHRAE, this is how ASHRAE works, is that basically, if you're a member, you can put forward a motion. The motion, if you can get people to second your motion, then it gets voted upon, and then it could get ratified, and then all of a sudden resources can be allocated towards it. So like, those models exist, and they're very effective by like volunteers who are just like, I think this is a problem, we need to solve this, get consensus by enough people, and then now all of a sudden you are working towards a solution that is not traditionally solved by the manufacturers or the trade associations, because that's not, they don't have incentives to solve that.
And it's a rally of the troops when you need them. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I get concerned a little bit, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't know if I'd want to see this become like board of directors, money gets spent behind it, constant funding, because funding leads to politics. Politics leads to people who are just like there for a paycheck, and like, oh, we got to do this for this person because they've been a contributor since day one. Like, that muddies the water. We've seen those organizations, right? I don't know if they should go there. It should be a movement and stay a movement. That way the mission stays the mission.
The podcast I just recorded with Brian Orr and Jim Bergman and Joe Madosh, we probably used the word anarchist about 200 times in that podcast, and like, basically that's what Brian was like, you know what, this was like, when this all started, it's about anarchy, not true anarchists, but that is kind of like, as according to the industry, like, everybody that's here that really cares and wants to make a difference. And a lot of anarchists, they want to, it's not about basically the completely tearing down everything and burning down the system. It is about kind of like exploring those alternatives so that better community can be an outcome. And so really, I might agree that that is where this is, at least with this group, that is leaning towards like, okay, maybe not something official, maybe not like a nonprofit, but still shared resources. And community that has intention is like, that's still the core.
I would also say messaging. Like, there's going to be fewer good guys than the bad guys, right? And I'm just saying that in general. But if the good guys rally together and have the same messaging to market, then it will create less confusion for the market, and then maybe our consumers can pick up on that and say, oh, this is what I want for my install. Right. I do need a manual JS&D. Like, I need that from my contractor, right? And it's requested, and then the good guy gets showed up, and now he's being requested rather than having to sell it and then do the work.
Because right now the dots aren't being connected.
No. Consumers, there's 1 in 1,000 homes that I have been to in my life did I ever have a consumer say, hey, what's the pregame work you're going to do before we make a move? Like, and typically that was an engineer who probably worked at a plant, and he excelled. Like, he did his own research. He's one of them guys who he reads for like 2 weeks straight on the topic before he even makes a phone call to say, oh, I'm going to hire somebody. Yeah. And then he's prepared, and he wants to show his level of intelligence. And when you get to show up, and a lot of people I knew, they hated that customer because they're like, oh my God, it's going to be the most difficult sell. I personally enjoyed it because it was like the first customer who understood a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, like, how far do you want to go? Like, what do you want to talk about? And so, and you warmed them up, you gained their trust, and it was a good time. It was a good sale.
Well, Chris, I appreciate your insights there, and looking forward to more of these Better HVAC conversations.